My name's Matt, welcome back to Xenomorph Universe, and today, as the title states, I want to talk about Ash, and does he actually break the 3 robotics laws? So, in the second film, when you watch Aliens, there's a conversation between Ripley and Burke when she notices that Bishop is a synthetic, an artificial person, whatever he wants to call it, an android. And she notices this because he catches himself with a knife and he's bleeding and it's that milky stuff. And he says to them, I don't know why you're freaking out. And she says, duh. And then he goes, oh yeah, that's because there were some accidents. Bishop questions it and says, what happened? And he says that some deaths occurred and so on. And then he says, oh, that can't happen now because of our, inhibitors and the 3 laws and all the rest of it. Which then, if you put 2 and 2 together, you then automatically assume that Ash either the 3 laws didn't exist then, or that the 3 laws of robotics, basically Ash was programmed not to have them. And I kind of disagree with that. So when you actually look at the actual the Alien film again with that in mind, you'll notice that there is an argument to say that actually Ash wasn't breaking the 3 laws whatsoever. So right at the start, Ash is obviously an imposter, is the enemy within. No one knows who he is, or no one knows that he's a synthetic. And there's speculation of what the reason why that is, and that is a separate discussion and a separate video. But we'll just focus on the 3 laws. So the 3 laws basically say, you can't hurt, you do as you're told, you can't hurt humans, and you can't allow humans to be hurt. So if you can see something about to fall on a human's head, you have to do something about it and stop that from happening. So it's basically, I think it's the stop machine saying, well, it's the gun that killed him, I just pulled the trigger. It's the action-reaction of harm to human beings. Now, to say that these laws didn't exist is a stupid thing, because these laws were basically formulated before Alien, the film, even came out, as a psychological discussion. This was actually all part of psychology, the psychology of robots and machines if they ever do become self-aware. But let's actually go to the film and let's see what we can see in the original film. So they all wake up, and obviously, like I said, they don't know who Ash is. They then, receive this distress signal or warning signal, whatever it may be. And the first inkling we get, or what the people have argued for, is the fact that when Ripley says it sounds like a warning, this signal, not a distress beacon, and Ash says, no, it's alright, don't go there, they've probably found out by now. Now you see, that actually makes sense. If you look at it blankly from a 3 laws perspective and an android's perspective, and other scenes where Parker asks Ash to move, Ash moves, when Dallas is discussing what they should do, and Kane says, I want to be on the team, he says this, that and the other, and he obviously orders Ash to stay on the ship. So there's Ash following the first law to stay put. When Ripley then says, I should go out and tell them, Ash is basically just using his noggin, and he could actually come to the conclusion that if they are in danger, he is unaware at the moment, but if they are in danger, then Ripley going out there would actually be harm to Ripley. So you could argue the fact that he's actually stopping Ripley going out by protecting her due to the 3 laws. The next thing that happens is that they are outside the airlock, and Ripley is refusing to let them in based on the quarantine procedure. And people go, we've got it now. Ash is trying to let the alien in he's trying to let the alien in because people believe that Whale and Yutani know that this creature's there, and Ash is there to facilitate the growth and the storage of this specimen. However, with Kane outside with this thing on his face, it's possible to say that even though the rules from the science department are about the quarantine rules, that Ash himself cannot just leave Kane outside. He needs to examine him, because of this third law. Maybe one of the three, the three laws are actually compelling him to disobey the science directive, the quarantine rules, and actually open the door, because he has to do something. You know what I mean? Yes, it could kill everyone, but the fact of the matter is no one knows that for sure, but he knows that there's something wrong with Kane individually sat there right there and then. So then you could say, right, well, the rest of the film, okay, so now he does his scans and he can see what's inside, or he can see that there's something inside. We don't know when Ash actually read the priority ruling and all the rest of it. The fact of the matter is the way that he'd computate that, or you could speculate, the way you'd computate what has happened to Kane, is that Kane is already infected. There is nothing that can be done. When they try to remove the face hugger, again, he was going off orders, and number two is he was trying to remove something that might be, detrimental to the life of Kane. So he's basically, there's nothing that points out that really Ash was disobeying the three laws whatsoever. So now that he knows that Kane is something inside him, could he then warn the rest of the crew that there's something inside Kane if he had the orders from another? It's a bit of a touchy, and as long as there's no foreseeable danger to the crew, he doesn't know this thing that's going to pop out. It won't be that big. It could pop out and just be like a rodent, a pest, a rat, an infection, like a fly or whatever. He's not quite sure. So based on that fact, yes, he is lying to the crew, but that is not what the three laws say. The three laws say that you should do as you're fucking told. It also says that you shouldn't harm human beings or allow harm to human beings. The third one is a bit sketchy because anything could harm human beings. If that was the case, then androids would basically just wrap us all in bubble wrap and leave us to it. So there's obviously tweaks to that programming, generally with androids in this universe, full stop. The interesting thing then comes to actually the end of Ash, where or when Dallas gets attacked. Dallas said that he's going to go into the vents. There's nothing that Ash can do. He's sat there. He's been ordered to basically sit with Ripley and monitor its movement. So, again, none of us have really seen this thing. Yes, Burke might have been killed by it, but Ash hasn't seen that. So I kind of think, especially with these earlier models of androids, they might interpret the three laws very, very specifically. It's only dangers that I see, it's only dangers that I'm actually directly in control of that could possibly harm human beings. And again, where Bishop comes in and says later on in the second film, that can't happen now because we've basically been upgraded. Like I say, this is all up to interpretation, but it's interesting to think that in the film there's actually nothing that detrimentally goes against the third laws until the confrontation between Ripley and Ash. Now, the fact of the matter is that Ash doesn't go off on one and just start attacking Ripley. She does slam his head into a wall. He starts milking it out the top of his head, so he's obviously damaged and defective. Now all of a sudden he can start attacking the crew, which he does. He attacks basically Parker and Ripley, and obviously he's trying to kill Ripley and all the rest of it. Once they give him a knock on the boggin and all the rest of it, his head comes off. When he's actually sat there with the last lines that Ash has in the film, when he's actually sat there talking to Ripley, again, you could say his lack of remorse, but there is nothing in his programming probably says he has to have remorse. You've got to remember that computers and machines only do what we tell them, and they do it pretty much to the letter. And, the three laws are basically, do as you're told, number one. And this is the thing, no one has actually said, are these in priorities? If number one is the priority, do as you're told, then you could argue that earlier versions of androids would attack humans if another human told them to attack it, or they'd shut down. No one actually knows. Like I say, this is all science fiction at the end of the day. But what I'm trying to just iterate here is that in the film there is no actual evidence that Ash is actually going off the rails, and again it's speculation from Ripley, it's speculation from Burke, it's speculation in the second film that makes us jump to conclusions. And that's what a lot of my videos are going to be about, is that the conclusions that we are made to jump to, especially from Ripley herself with other other topics and themes and what have you through this entire film series. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. You know, it's great to argue it out in the comments and all the rest of it. I am not avert to, being wrong or having my mind changed, or people have different ideas or whatever. And if you think there's a reason why Ash absolutely, directly broke the 3 laws, which proving that he didn't have them, then I'd love to hear that in the comments. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you next time.